Hi, this is Everett. Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my studio. Today, another watercolor demonstration, which you can enjoy. I'm going to do something again a little bit different, I'm going to do some construction equipment. This is going to be a backhoe, a big one of those big shovels and so forth. But I always loved painting these, and I enjoy drawing them also. So let me go to my painting table and let me get started. Overhead. Okay. Well, there's my reference photograph. It's a great big tractor, backhoe, and just love these things, the way the construction and so forth. So I found one there on the end. I'm going to did the drawing here. So there's the reference photograph. And then I've already I did a quick sketch on my sketch pad, and I filled it in with my ink pen. And I just wanted to get it, again, I always go and I just practice getting the shapes and sizes and so forth, so I become familiar with the subject, okay? Always a great idea. Do a sketch or a simple drawing to be familiar with the subject. So that's the drawing exercise. Now I'll put that away. Now over here, now I went ahead and transferred that drawing, that sketch to my quarter sheet of Gemini 140 pound cold press paper, 140 pound. It's a quarter sheet which measures 15 inches long and 11 inches wide. Okay. All right. And over here in my palette, I got my standard palette with Holbein watercolors, and I'm going to be using orange and a little bit of blue, which will be ultramarine blue, maybe a little bit of cerulean blue, and I've got my burnt sienna down here at the bottom, and maybe a little bit of Payne's gray, and that's about it. So I mean, just minimal colors, but I think those are the colors I need. And my brushes, I've got a half inch Holbein brush. I got a 3/4 inch flat Holbein brush, and I got the number 8 round. And I'll be wetting the sky. I'll be using the Hake brushes. I'll be using the large and medium size Hake. Uh, all these brushes and everything are on my website, everestwatercolors.com. And I'll be using a spray bottle to wet my paper and also to wet the paints. This is palette in a bottle dot sprayer, sold exclusively at Everest Watercolors. So let me get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the sky. So let me get my Hake brushes out here, and first of all, I'm going to wet the sky. Get the wet brush, just plain water, and I'm going to go ahead and put the water in. Now this helps the water spread around a little bit, helps the paint spread, and don't want to get it too wet, just a little damp. Makes it easier to paint. Makes the watercolor flow. Now the sky has a few clouds. The photograph had a few clouds in the sky. And I'm going to leave probably some white paper showing. Just to have. I'm not going to really do a lot of detail on the sky. Just going to put really a background. So I'll mix up a little bit of ultramarine blue over here. Not too dark. It'll be like a light mix. And then a little bit of cerulean blue. A combination of those two blues. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get a nice light sky. And I'm going to leave some white paper showing. That'll be the clouds. I put it wet so it'll be a soft edge around the clouds. That's what the wet paper's for, is to keep the hard lines from showing up. And come right on down to the landscape area over here. Okay, I'll check around here, make sure I like what I have. I do. That looks good. It's a little bit of white paper showing for clouds. That's about it. Real simple. Okay, I'm going to dry that now with my hair blower. This is my Ranger craft tool, and that's a Ranger craft tool. It's really great. It's nice and quiet. I can talk while I'm painting on this thing. So just going to dry this off so I can go ahead and start painting the main character here, which is the backhoe shovel. I'm always fascinated with these large machines. They're fascinating, and they're a lot of fun to paint. And I've drawn a lot of them over time and painted a lot of them. So, but this one here is a nice big one. So it's going to be the star of the show. Oh, so make sure this is dry here, so I can add. Now touch with the back of your hand. If it feels warm, then it's dry. Okay, it's warm, so it's dry. Okay, now the first mix I'm going to, not the mix, but the first color I'm going to put on. I'm going to put some of the colors into the backhoe, which is orange. This is orange, beautiful color, and also put a little bit of yellow deep, just to mix it. Just so I don't like the same color, I always mix them up a little bit. And this is going to be a little thicker pigment than the what I painted the sky with. Now I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to try to use just a little minimal brush strokes and get the right angles. This has an angle up here. Nice orange color. It's beautiful. Try to get as few brush strokes as possible. Now we'll start this side over here. Load that brush with orange and we'll get this section over here. This has a little bend to it. This has an underside. There's two sides here. I see a front and a lower section here. Get that angle. I'm following my my design drawing. Okay. Okay, then there's a little back section here. This is where the engine is back here, the powerful engine. Diesel, probably a diesel fuel. Big powerful tractor, big powerful tractor. Okay, then we'll go along to, I got a little orange showing here at the bottom of this little cabin here, where the operator sits in the little cabin, where he operates. And let's see, there's a little bit more orange over here on these other extensions. And let's see if I can continue to use the 1/2" brush. I probably can. And of course, these are at one time these were all the same colors, but you know, over during this construction, of course, they get filled with concrete and sand and so forth. So, you know, the colors change over time. So I'll get just enough colors on here. Okay, that's all the orange I need. That's the main ingredient. There's some sections that'll still have some orange, so I'll just wait for that. Now, my next thing will be to put in some of the darker colors. Let's see. Well, I think I'll work on the. Let's see. I think I'll work on the tracks. I mean the bucket. I think the bucket is what I want to work on next. Okay, so I'll mix up a little bit of gray and brown. This is, you know, this is a. We'll start with a lighter color here, and I'll use the flat. This is a 3/4 inch flat, and I'll also come in here and use another brush. This is a Scotty round brush, which I'll use. It's got a sharp point to it. Okay, now I'm going to pick up a little bit of burnt sienna here now. There's some rust on this, and I'm going to mix a little bit of burnt sienna in that little mix. A little bit stronger here, a little bit of rust maybe. That's pretty standard of these large vehicles. They sit out in the weather. They're outside all the time. They don't worry about the rain or the snow or whatever. They sit outside, so they're exposed to the elements. We'll bring this section on down. Okay, then I'll pick up some of that darker brown-black mix. It's a little bit of Payne's gray mixed in with ultramarine blue. Now I think I'll lighten up just a little bit here at the bottom of the shovel. And this will dry a little bit lighter when it dries. I'll go back to this round brush and get the edges here. I'm just using the photos as a reference because I'm not going to worry about getting exactly the same colors, but just to simulate the colors that would be there. And I think what I may do is take a little bit of a paper towel here, and I'm going to block some of this off just a little bit, so I have a little bit of change of values. So I picked up a little bit of that with a paper towel just to give it a different look. Looking for that variety. This is the back of the. This is the main part of the backhoe. Is this large bucket. This is the one that does all the. This bucket is the one that does all the work. Does all the lifting. Okay, and I think I'll pick up a little bit, just pick up a little bit of color just so I have a little bit to work with. Okay, now I'll use a smaller brush here. 1/2 inch. I got some orange in there, so I got to clean that off. But this back part here, back part of the shovel. So I wanted a little bit of variety of colors in there. And then what I'll do now, I think I'll go in and start putting in some of the other designs. This has a lot of pistons along here. These are the ones that really lift and move the bucket. Let's see where I'll start. I guess I can start here on this side. I'm gonna make sure I got my arm in the right direction here. These are the pistons. These are the devices that move the bucket, change the angle. They provide the power to the machine. From the machine, well, and this is what passes the power on. These from the control, from the operator control booth there, a little cabin. He controls the operation of the shovel. And these levers and pistons is what moves the item or the shovel. Now these arms here also the connections. Connection here. Connection there. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that gray because there's a little change in color over here. There's this side of it. I'm going to fill that in. So blocking in, I'm kind of blocking in the colors right now. And okay, I got another piston over here on this side that lowers this section of the crane part, the arms. This lowers the elevation and changes the angle of the height and the angle of the bucket. So this controls the elevation. Those two. And see, we got some other arms down here to control this section down here. There's another one right here. Another piston here, this section. This controls another angle of this larger arm at the base. So it really is a mechanical marvel here how this was designed. It's amazing. All these levers and pieces of equipment here. This one here is another lever on this side. Okay. I think I got all those. Okay, I got all the orange parts. Okay. All right. Now I think I'll put some. I'm going to put some paint on the tracks. So what I need here is a little bit of Payne's gray. Down here is a little bit of gray and a little bit of blue, brown together. Give me a light gray. So I'll go in here and put in the tracks on the bottom here of the tractor. This helps to maneuver the whole machine around so it can go from point to point, get in position. These large tracks allow mobility to get in position before they use the shovel. Amazing, amazing, amazing. It's a lot of fun watching these things, these large shovels operate. They can move a lot of ground, a lot of earth in a very short period of time. And these are necessary construction machines. You'll see these in most construction areas where they're building houses or homes and large buildings. Also road work around the edge of highways. Where there's heavy duty digging and lifting have to do, this is where this machine will be. This is a track. Again, just blocking in the lighter section. I'll put in a darker section a little bit later. And I'll put another light section in here. There's a little connections inside. There's a little track that goes around. It controls the speed and direction of the track. Okay. All right, got that part in. I got the shovel, I got the arms, and I got the tracks, and I guess I'll work on the cabin. I guess get the cabin fixed up. Well, it's a dark paint, so I'm going to use a little bit of Payne's gray on that, and a little bit add a little bit of blue on that, a little bit of ultramarine blue, and there's a mix down here. I got a dark mix. So I'm going to go ahead and put the cabin in. This is where the operator sits, where he controls the equipment. He does the driving, and he also does all the movement of the arms. Fascinating. A lot of training involved here. A lot of practice. I love watching these machines work. They're just fascinating to watch. Okay. I think I'll square off that just a little bit there. Square that off the cabin. Bring it down. This is where the operator sits. It comes right on down to the base. Okay. And then this is a little bit of shadow here next to this arm. And the base of the cabin right here. So this is where the operator has a viewpoint of where the shovel is, of course, very important. To have good observation of where the shovel is. And the back of this top here, it goes behind this little section over here, behind the large arm. The back of that. Okay. All right. Put that one going. I can go ahead and put in some a little bit of definition here on the rails, on the tracks. This is all in shadow inside here, so we'll put this in shadow. Okay. Then this one over here, I got inside. Now the cabin here is connected to the base here. Bring this down. So I'll put this is all in shadow here. Okay, all right, there's that part. And there's this part underneath the track now is also in shadow. This is a shadow inside the track, looking up from the side. So I'm working on a little bit of detail now on these tracks, just to get that shadow side of the tracks inside here. This is the inside of the track. I'm looking at it from the inside out. Okay, all right, leave that alone. And let's see, what I want to do now, I'm going to add a little more detail now on those booms. So I'm going to take a little bit of white. I'm going to use white. I could use silver or something like that, but I'm going to use white. And pick up a little bit of white. Let's try the white first. This is part of that piston operation here. That lowers the shovel maneuvers. So this is the piston section. That'd be white, and then there's another white section up here. And there's another section on here. Okay, I think that's pretty self-evident right there. Okay. All right, now let's see. I'm gonna let that kind of drag. I want to get the background a little bit in now. Okay, so I'll let the tractor kind of sit there for a while. I'll go back and do some touch up here and there. I'm gonna go ahead and get the background in. So what I'll do, move these brushes aside for a second, and I'll get my. Now what I'm gonna do is put there's a dark background. If you remember the photograph, I'm going to put a dark background. I'm going to put a dark background of rocky hills back here behind, okay? And there'll be a little stone here at the bottom. Rough stone here, but rocks in the background. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to have a little bit of mix here of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue and little bit of Payne's gray, give it a nice dark mix. And I'm going to go in here now and go around the edge of this shovel. And use a large brush. I'm using a large energetic brush strokes. I'm not going to work too much detail on this. Just want to get that in. And back here, same thing. I'm going to move the just a little so I can get the angle of the brush. Yeah. What I want to do is get this, make sure I got some darks now. I want to make these darker than the shovel, so that the shovel stands out. I'm using a 3/4 inch flat brush. I'm using a corner. I'm using the edges. I'm using it just like a round brush around these little areas. So this is a very versatile brush to have. A nice big old flat brush. Cover a lot of ground. Also you can get lots of detail if necessary. These are just mounds of rocks back here behind. This quarry or wherever it is, it's a rock quarry that has lots of rocks next to the shovel. And I'm going to go right here, right past the operator's cabin. Go around the design here. And there'll be a little bit of showing through the window here. Try to show that as the background is showing through. showing through the window. One out the other side. Using the corner of the brush, get that real fine area with the corner of the brush. And then continue on with another big swipe over here. Pick up some of that burnt sienna. I'll turn the paper a little bit so I can get that in there. Big brush strokes. Using the edge of the brush, corner of the brush. Coming in here and carving it out with the edge of the brush, edge in the corner, just like using like a round brush. So if you have one brush, I would say have the flat brush. If you only had one brush, have a good flat brush. Now there's a smoke, not a smokestack, but this is where the exhaust pipe is that shows up on the back of this part of this area that houses the engine. So there's a little exhaust pipe there. I'm going to leave that showing, and we'll put that in detail, but I want to leave a little bit of it showing here as positive and negative show. I think what I'll do, I'll use a small brush here. That way I won't cover up anything. Use a small brush for a little detail, just one section right here, because it's right near the impact area. This part of the painting, that and the shovel, are the most interesting parts of the painting. Show a little definition here. Okay, and clean up this a little bit down here. All right. Okay, that's the dark background. It really makes that orange really pop out of the tractor. Okay, now down here at the bottom, I'm going to put in some real light gray. So what I'll do is use the same mix, but mix in a lot of water here. I just want a light gray. So I'll use the same pile I had before. A mixture of burnt sienna, ultramarine, a little touch of Payne's gray. A lot of water. It's probably half water and half paint right now. Now I'm going to come down here and put this, give me a light gray. This is the same. This is the rocks down here, and I'm going to show you a technique on this one. When I get this layer in first, get a light layer in. Going around these edges with a flat brush. It always works. Putting those final touches here or these final touches around the edge of the tracks. This is just the foreground light. This is that light rocks that are in the front, which I'll come back and do a little more detail on those. And these rocks go all the way around the other side of the tractor. Yeah, we call this the tractor, and then the shovel. And it's called a backhoe. Backhoe Tractor. That's what I call it. Okay. Up here in front of the shovel, we'll get that light mix in there. Okay, and come around the back and get this back side. Right around. We're filling this in with rocks. Okay, let that dry. Okay, now while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and just find some fine touching on the shovel. And what that is, there's these little connectors and so forth that have bolts, nuts and bolts. So I'm going to take a little bit of burnt sienna mixed in with that black mix. I want a dark brown is what I want, like a rust. And I'll go in here now and fill in some of these areas. There's a connection. There's a connector up here, a large bolt connection right there on that section. There's one up here on this section. These are shows how the connectors are put together. And there's a connector here. There's another one out here on this section. And this large one here, I've got one here. This section. There. Okay. And down here, there's I can put a mark that there's really a connection here, and there's also one right here. They're the ones that tie it together, you know. Then coming down the pike here, let's see, we got this long one here. We got a connector up here. On that section, okay. I think I got most of the main connections, okay? That's it. That's about it there, okay. All right. Now, as far as detail on the shovel, take a little bit of Payne's Gray here, a little bit of this dark mix, a little bit darker. And there's a little shadow on this. This is like part of the shovel construction. There's like a front blade on this, and it goes round. Let me pull this out. And there's some sections. It shows the section back here. Goes to that point. And there's another section down here. There's a little bit of dark spot over here. This is in shadow, not in shadow, but it's also this colored in here a little bit. Needs a little bit more help over here. Just give this a little definition. There's a little definition up here where this connector is. In that section. Okay. A bit over there. Now I want to put. Let's see. Now on the back part here, there's a couple sections that got maybe a little shadow. There's a little shadow under here. The shadow there. A little bit of shadow here. There's a dark line here. This has a section like that. And back here there's like probably a cover. So they can change oils and lubricate the machinery. A little maintenance blocker back here. Okay. And then that a smokestack. I'm going to put it in here. Now I'm going to show the part up here, dark against light. That's the positive against the negative. And then the negative against the positive is, I left that white so you can see that there's a positive and negative push and pull type operation there. Okay, now I'm going to take that flat brush, and where did I put it? There we go. Where did I put that? Where's my little flat brush? I guess I lost it. Here it is. All right. I'm going to have to get a little bit darker orange. So what I do, I take the orange, mix in a little bit of burnt sienna to that. Because burnt sienna is just a dark orange, is all that is. Okay. And this is two sides, so this is going to be underneath. This section here is underneath. So you have a front. You have this as a. It's angular. So we have the front angle or front face facing toward us, which is light, but then we have the shadow side, which is underneath, which is a little bit darker. So that'll give this arm a little bit more depth by showing the lights and darks against it. Okay, so we bring this down here, and this is facing this way, so it gets a little wider at this point. And it's a little bit darker because it's facing out away from the light. Okay, all right, that gives that a little more edge. And then there's a section up here in this top. This is also square, but you only see the top of this one. So I'm going to just darken this section a little bit, because this section here that's out of light a little bit. Okay. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now the only thing I want to put a little more detail on is the tracks, and let's see. We'll take the these tracks have little, just like a tank. They have tracks that have ridges in them. So indicate that there's this track has some little ridges on it. Goes back, and the same way over here. So these are just details now to make it look a little more realistic. Okay, that's the edge of that. And okay, I think what I'm going to do now is put a little shadow on this front here. So I want to shape this front part up. So I'm going to put this section here a little bit more in shade. Leave the left side open in the sun or light, and this would come down this way and come down. Okay, so it gives that a little depth. It gives that shovel really the light side and the darker side. Okay. Okay. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is going to put a little texture here in the front ground. And what I'm going to do here is just take I'm going to take a toothbrush, and first of all I'm going to cover my important parts up here. Just lay a towel gently over this top part right there, and maybe I'll put a paper towel over the track. I'm protecting all the areas I don't want to get any extra paint on, okay? There we go, okay. Now I'm going to take this toothbrush and I'm going to load it with dark paint. It's going to be a combination here of the section I have down here. Ultramarine, Payne's Gray, and Burnt Sienna. So I'll take a small toothbrush and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to cover up one more area. I don't want to get anything on that shovel. So we'll cover up the shovel. Okay, so what I have here is this foreground. I'm going to splatter this with a toothbrush. I'm going to splatter here with a toothbrush. Okay, and we'll take that off and that off. Okay. Then I'll get just a little more. I don't want to get too carried away now. I just want to show you how to get a little texture here on the. Just put a little splatter over here. Okay. All right. I'll show it up to you close here. That's the splatter on the foreground. That looks like that rock in the photograph. If you look at the photograph, you'll see all those rocks down there, black and white down here. That's that rough gravel look, and that's what I did there with the toothbrush. Okay. Okay. So that's going to complete the painting. Let's put a little mat board around that. I'm going to put a mat around it and show it off. Okay, I picked up a little spray there. All right, there it is. There's my backhoe shovel, which I think turned out really good. I really like what happened there. And you could always spend a little more time tweaking up the edges and so forth like that. But for right now, this is a great start, and I'm going to leave it right there. My backhoe shovel, love it. So let's go to my main camera. Okay, I had a good time today. I hope you did. I hope you watched that. And also try it. You know, find yourself a good photograph of one of these huge machines, and then draw it up, and then do a little painting of it. And today I showed you some things that I did to get some of the textures and colors and so forth. Okay, so I enjoyed that. If subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up and a like if you did that. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I'll be back in next week with another demonstration painting. And later on today I'll be working with Simply Drawing with Everett. There was another drawing on Simply Drawing with Everett. And on weekends I got release. I'll be putting out Anyone Can Draw with One Line Only. So if you're subscribed to this channel, you'll be notified of all those videos. And I got over 900 videos on YouTube, so you have a good time there finding something you like. And I got all kinds of subject matter and all kinds of ways to paint and so forth. So you have a good time, and I'll see you next week. Take care, and I'll see you on the next video.